You just said, as a leader, I'm constantly looking at people to be like, this person's doing a good job and therefore they get a reward. The flip side of that I've definitely seen a lot more is there are a lot of people who work hard, but they don't get the rewards for it because they're just working hard. Whereas there's a whole system around network and different bits and pieces that they need to do. So as a leader who's been in those spaces, how do you actually ensure that the right people do get rewarded and celebrated and acknowledged? Because sometimes there is nothing about promotion and more money, which is nice. And there are times it's just being acknowledged that I see what you're doing. How do you ensure that you do that? Are there things you've learned to be able to help you that kind of get the best out of your team in that way and recognize them?
Yeah, I mean, that was a particular challenge that we faced when I first started, is that sometimes it's the person who shouts the loudest, the person who's the most visible, person who's running around putting fires out, that sort of gets the attention of the manager. But in that case, the manager's not really paying attention. And first of all, it comes down to, are people being given the proper feedback? And do you have the proper feedback loops for people, not just the once a year annual review? Because a lot of times managers don't want to confront difficult situations. And the easiest way to deal with that, people, especially if somebody's quite forward about, I'm the best, you need to promote me, and the manager goes, yeah, okay, there you go, and they just bend on that. You have to be able to have a process by which you can capture not only all the good things that people have done, but all the development, help them develop, give them the opportunities, show that what they can do, and so on. Try and reach their potential. But then you have to be able to see the whole picture. First of all, so we created a thing like, right, for every person, we had a whole sort of business analytics thing which said, right, how much does this person earn? Where in the median of their peers are they? When was their last pay upgrade? When was the last bonus? How do they rank this year in their sort of feedback to win a 9x9 matrix, 3x3 matrix of performance, and a series of other sort of things, so that when it came time to sort of work out, pay grades and so on, you can actually sort of properly put them in a rank where the best performers obviously are the ones that you want to keep, and you want to nurture and develop and help and motivate and so on. And then you could have a proper picture of what's going on. And a lot of times, a lot of the people who work very hard, who've been there for a long time, and quietly, they're happy doing what they do, but they work very well and happily. Those are the ones that get forgotten. And in those cases, that kind of matrix helps not only recognize them, but also say, like, look, we see you, we know that you're doing a good job. You're not the superstar, but you're not the underperformer. You're there right in the middle, where we want you and where you're happy being. But we want to acknowledge this, and we want to sort of reward it too. And it's a very difficult thing to do, but it's surprisingly easy when you've got the data and you're willing to sort of spend a little bit of time sort of just looking at that data. And we developed that just to avoid, because 100 plus people is very difficult to manage that kind of thing. And we did it in order to make sure that it was always equitable. And we're quite sort of open and honest about how we did it, so that people didn't think that, managers were favoring the shiny superstar of the week. But it was kind of a proper conversation. And here, evaluations, it's not about once a year evaluations, it's constant communication between the manager and each one of the individuals in that group. Doesn't matter if it's one or two notches down, but that manager needs to very well understand where that person in each group is on a developmental side of things, on how they're working, if they've got any problems at home, or if they've got any issues or concerns and so on, and just to try and make sure that they're working on this. Because if the concerns of the people working in your team are not being addressed, those people are going to leave. And I've always understood that people leave bad managers, not bad companies. And managers need to be able to understand their team. And if they don't understand their team, they shouldn't be a manager.